North Korea has passed a law officially declaring itself a so-called nuclear weapon state.
According to state media, the Korean Central News Agency, or KCNA, the law will allow the country to automatically launch a preventive nuclear strike against enemies if under attack. Leader Kim Jong-un says his country will never give up nuclear arms, and the new law will make it, quote, impossible to bargain over these weapons. He added that peace is only possible with strength to deter what he calls imperialist arrogance.
Kim, also General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, stresses that the new law, the country's status as a nuclear weapon state, is now irreversible and that there will be no denuclearization negotiations. The law says nuclear weapons can be used to protect the country's strategic assets or if it's attacked. It also bans any sharing of nuclear arms or technology with other countries.
Pyongyang has recently increased its frequency of weapons tests. U.S. intelligence shows that the North could be preparing for an imminent nuclear test.
For analysis on North Korea's latest move to double down on nuclear weapons, we are joined by Dr. Stephen Nagy. He's a senior associate professor, Department of Politics and International Studies at International Christian University. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. So does Mr. Kim's latest announcement signal anything different in terms of the North's next step, given its long-standing preference of rocket or nuclear diplomacy to achieve its aims?
Well, I think it has perhaps three signals. One is that the North Koreans are drawing a very concrete line in terms of where they want to go in terms of negotiations with the United States moving forward. Drawing into line that North Korea is a nuclear weapons state means that comprehensive, irreversible denuclearization of North Korea is going to be a very difficult path forward, and the cost is going to be high for the United States, Japan, and other partners that are going to be part of that process. Second, I think there's lessons that have been learned from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that nuclear weapons really are an important security tool for the regime to maintain regime security. And lastly, I think the decision to put nuclear weapons into law really cements Kim Jong-un's legacy as the leader that secured North Korea and that will move it forward into a new period of some kind of stability, some kind of development.
Professor, Kim Jong-un says that this law means that denuclearization is now non-negotiable. That's a blow to the hopes of South Korea and the U.S., isn't it? Any chance of reviving talks are now dead, it seems.
Well, absolutely. I think that we will likely see talks remain stalled for the short to midterm. The United States' priority is not North Korea right now. And I think this is unfortunate for countries like Japan and South Korea that really are concerned about North Korea's weapons of mass destruction development, and as well as the various kinds of delivery systems that you've mentioned in your opening segment. The North has not only developed nuclear weapons, and it may test a nuclear weapon in the coming weeks or months, but it's developed those delivery systems that put many countries in danger within the region. And I think that this is something that we should be concerned of, but it's something that may be a window of opportunity for negotiation moving forward. Not denuclearizing, but potentially putting limits on the delivery systems that North Korea may use.
In the neighboring South, of course, there's been a growing number of people arguing for a nuke strategy, and saying that only the presence of nuclear weapons could be a suitable deterrent to the North. Professor, could the latest move embolden the South Korean government to pursue nuclear weapons as a defensive strategy?
Well, this argument is really a slippery slope. It would be really difficult to imagine South Korea acquiring a nuclear weapon and not other states in the region, such as Japan, perhaps political entities like Taiwan, seeking something similar to secure their governments and their regimes. And this is not a path that I think South Korea would like to go down. But I think that they are thinking about this. When you visit various ministries there, you do hear this potential option. But I think they understand that the best option for South Korea is deterrence, and working with international partners to find ways to incentivize North Korea to move in a different direction. This is hard, it's long, and it probably we won't find a solution in 10 or 15 years. Ultimately, it will be an economic solution and a solution coming out of North Korea.
And Professor, China is North Korea's main ally. How will they see this development?
I think they see it in line with the power changes within the region. China has also watched Russia invade Ukraine. They understand the limits of the United States and NATO in terms of pushing back against Russia because it's a nuclear power. I think it cements in China's mind that not only North Korea would probably take the path of maintaining a nuclear armed state to prevent regime change, but China as well is expanding its quality and quantity of nuclear weapons to push back against the United States and potential partners. So the message here is China, North Korea, and Russia understand that nuclear weapons is a way to preserve their regimes, to defend their countries, and to push back what they understand is an assertive United States in the region.
It looks like U.S. and allies don't have a whole lot of options on the table right now. I mean, how should they respond? Would sanctions work?
Sanctions are difficult, and I think what we're going to move forward is we're going to see countries like Japan, perhaps others, acquire what we call preemptive strike capabilities, and those preemptive strike capabilities are meant to deter countries like North Korea from launching nuclear weapons preemptively. This is really one of the few paths forward in terms of dealing with North Korea's strategy of basically oversaturating or saturating the anti-ballistic missile systems within the region. And then from that point, pushing a very hard negotiation of where North Korea and regional relations are going to go. So I see preemptive strike capabilities as being the primary vehicle of pressuring North Korea, continued sanctions, and again, international cooperation with like-minded countries.
And just a quick last question for you. What does this mean for the smaller nations around the region and for us here in Southeast Asia?
Instability. Any instability on the Korean Peninsula has potential consequences in terms of trade, economy, investment. And Southeast Asia is a huge recipient of aid from the region. And the last thing that Southeast Asian countries want is a militarization of Northeast Asia, or the three big engines of economic growth of the region, China, South Korea, and Japan, engaging in some kind of arms race to defend themselves against each other, against North Korea, and of course, taking essential resources away from economic development. So I think we should be watching carefully and try to find pathways for diplomacy and de-escalation, as hard as that may be.
Yeah, Professor, thank you so much for your insight today. Professor Stephen Nagy there, Senior Associate Professor, Department of Politics and International Studies at the International Christian University.